Adventure of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio, and once again we're back with the amazing pet health guru here on the Positively Pipeman segment of the Adventures of Pipeman. Later in the show, we're going to talk about some powerful business strategies. We're going to give away some tickets to festivals. But right now, we're going to talk about spay and neutering. And my first question anyway, Bill, is why don't they call it spay and neutering for humans? Like, you know, humans get castrated or vasectomy or, you know, or was it that hysterectomy and like, but with pets, it's spay and neuter. Where did that all come from?
The only one thing I can say about that is they just didn't want to make it sound harsh. You know, it's like we want it to be the compassionate thing to do to these poor animals, you know, removing body parts. And it's like, you know, let's make it just sound a little bit softer and easier than, you know, oh, we just ripped out your uterus or, you know, it's, you know, there's so many items like that that are different, even diseases and that they call them different things with the animals. They rename the drugs, you know, so that you can't put two and two together. It's just a confusion thing.
Yeah, totally. And I don't know, as a human, I would prefer to be called by a more calmer thing than castration.
That's the procedure. That's the procedure. No, it's just it doesn't make any sense. But they had to make it so it sounds like this is a compassionate thing to do. When in reality, we're cutting an animal's life in half by doing this, and they knew this back in the 1950s.
It seems kind of unnatural, right?
Well, there's no extra body parts. I mean, it's just, you know, the whole you know, concept is we just can't keep breeding animals. We can't keep breeding animals. And, you know, on food animals, it's a little bit different. You know, they castrate bulls into steers. That's to change the flavor of the beef, actually. And of course, so that you know, for easier handling, because you know, when you take something out, you don't feel well.
Okay,
so
hold on.
Function.
I want to know right now how castrating a bull makes the meat taste better.
You don't get the strong testosterone taste. And of course, you're getting a lot more muscling, but you get a lot. It's a tougher meat because of it too. Just because they're out there fighting each other. You know, we have to build up our bodies. So,
yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it cuts their lifespan in half, which is a terrible thing to do. You never feel well again. I mean, I can remember, you know, back in the 50s and the 60s. Yeah, I'm that old. When, you know, moms would get a hysterectomy and they come home from the hospital, they were never the same person. It changes the whole personality.
I can't see how you would be. Like, I mean, and think about it too, when they talk about, you know, even in the extremes, like they should castrate a serial killer. Well, what does that tell you? That the reason that they're doing it is to change the person. It tells you that right there, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And with pets, what do they tell you when you get a pet? That you should spay and neuter so they calm down.
Yeah. Calm them down. They don't go into, the females don't go into a heat cycle. So, you know, there's no, but a lot of these bad behaviors, of course, are also caused because of the poor nutrition and all the drugs and everything else. It's, you know, when you take out a hormone producing organ, and it doesn't matter which one it is, you're going to have problems with producing those hormones, which means your adrenal gland, your thyroid, everything else has now got to work a lot harder. And of course, that's going to change your personality. It's going to change your health level as well. You're not going to be as healthy. You can't be.
How could you? Like there's a reason we have these things. Even like in humans, they take out organs that they say you don't need. If you didn't need it, it wouldn't be there. It does
That's right.
something.
Yeah. Well, the appendix was the biggest one, of course, for the longest time, and gallbladders. Well, you need the gallbladder to store bile so you can digest your food, and the we also need to have the good bacteria in our gut. And that's when you remove those organs, you don't have that anymore. So now everybody's on drugs for, you know, all kinds of GI problems, IBD, IBS, ulcers, you name it, because we've removed the organs that are needed to produce these types of things.
Well, the gallbladder, that's like a big trend now. It's like pretty trendy. The minute you have any kind of pain, they just want to pull it out. Like that's the first stop. Like that should be the last stop.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I, I think people should just use some common sense because they tell you when you're having your gallbladder removed how you need to change your diet for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Okay. My viewpoint is this. First of all, if you have to change your diet, that means you needed that organ. But secondly, if you have to change your diet, how about you just change your diet and don't pull the organ out of the body?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of that simple. I said that, you know, I reversed diabetes with just food. And my son, he's like, I got to give you props, Dad. I wouldn't do what you're doing. I would just take the meds. And I'm like, but you don't get it. See, you're just like everybody else. Like, even if I took the meds, I would have to eat this way. The meds are not permission to keep poisoning your body.
No.
So I just choose to eat this way and not take the meds.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a client come in a couple of weeks ago and they were scheduling her for gallbladder surgery. What else, right? And I said, why? Well, the doctor says it's only working at 25% capacity. So you're going to be working it at 0% capacity if you take it out. It means it's still working. Fix it. Just fix it.
You know, it's like, I don't know, people want this quick fix, but if you've poisoned your body for so long, you can't have the quick fix. And taking something out of your body isn't a quick fix. All it does is present more problems, in my opinion. I would think.
Of course, the body can't function normally. All these parts are part of a system. But when you look at medicine today, and you know we're seeing it more and more in veterinary medicine as well. Of course, the human side's been doing it for a while. All these specialties. I think in human medicine, there's now 90 some specialties. You're looking at one body part. Well, if you got a heart problem, what caused the heart problem? You know, if you weren't born with it, you had to do something to your body that caused that heart to start having a problem. And of course, the bulk of it goes back to foods, the nutrition, the poisons, all the poisons. And, you know, so you're starting to break it down. Stop putting poison in. The body's replacing every cell all the time anyway. Replace it with good cells, not more bad ones. I mean, that's all cancer is deformed cells.
Exactly. And here's the thing, too. Okay, as a good analogy for the people listening, think of all the times you buy something where assembly is required and how many people end up with extra parts and think that's normal. No, there's not extra parts. You forgot to put a part in, and then a few years down the road, that thing's falling apart. Why? Because of those extra parts that you thought was an extra part. So having extra parts means falling apart.
Yes. Well, it's like, you know, of course we do processing and that sort of thing. So I have some industrial equipment and I'll walk by and I'm like, there's a bolt missing here. Where is it? Well, I don't know. Nobody saw it. Well, if a bolt fell out and fell on the floor, somebody had to clean it up. And nobody bothers to ask, where did that come from? Nobody has the curiosity to look. And then of course, the next thing you know, again, you have failures going on. And it's like, leave it to the, you know, ask the boss, what should we do? How do we fix it? Where's the part? Where is the freaking part? You know, exactly. or even some of them will take, you know, safety equipment. Oh my God, that's another biggie, you know, in the processing. Oh, it was in my way, so I took it off. Okay, yeah, and you just cut off your finger on the bandsaw, right?
Exactly. You could do that with anything. Like I go surfing. If you don't have a leash on, yeah, the leash gets in the way. I've had my leg tied up by a leash, but without the leash, several bad things can happen,
Mm-hmm.
including death for
Yeah,
me or somebody else,
yeah.
you know? So, like, listen, some things may inconvenience us, some things we may think that don't matter, but there's always a reason. And I don't understand why people don't think of that, that there's a reason why those organs are there.
Well, one of the big things that I have with veterinarians when it comes to spay and neuter too, it's like, well, we don't want your female dog to get uterine cancer. We don't want the male dog to get prostate cancer. Well, first off, the male dogs don't get prostate cancer if they're intact. That's a healthy body. When we take it out, that's when they have more problems. But they say, we don't want it. And I just look at the veterinarians when they say that, and it's like, listen, doc, I don't want you ever to get lung cancer. So let's remove your lungs.
Right?
And usually that's when I'm escorted out of the building.
Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly.
it doesn't prevent anything. In fact, actually, it's just like some of the inoculations. We see the disease after that occurs, not beforehand. These are animals that are supposed to be protected, people that are supposed to be protected, and the chances are because you lower the immune system, you don't have a body that's functioning properly, and you know, but pharmaceutical companies and the medical community makes a ton of money on this stuff. You know,
Hmm. Even with the weight loss industry, a
yeah,
lot of these things that these people are doing along with getting a gastric sleeve or a gastric bypass or something like that, they would have to, they would, why don't they just do that part? Because that's the part. You know how many people get a gastric sleeve, they don't follow the dietary guideline, and then their stomach grows back and it's like it never happened and they didn't lose the weight. That should tell you that it's about what you eat, not what you take out of your body.
yeah, it's absolutely true. Um, I mean, let's face it. If you remove certain, just even not only organs but muscles, if they took out your calf muscle, you couldn't walk.
Yeah,
You know, um, it, it's it's just the philosophy that if it's not working right, remove that part. And it's like I can take a couple of gears out of your transmission. Your car will run, but probably not very far and not very well. And
exactly.
it's and of course we also don't look at, okay, when we do this stuff, this is surgery. Surgery is dangerous. You know, up to 25% of animals that go under surgery die on the table from the anesthesia, because there is no anesthesiologist normally in a vet hospital. It's a vet tech watching to make sure the animal's breathing,
Yeah.
and that's all it is. And then, of course, you've got the healing on the other side of it. When you cut open the body, I don't care how big or how small it is, the body now has to divert its energy to healing that site.
Hmm.
And so, if you've got other problems going on, which obviously if you're having surgery, you do have other problems going on, those are neglected. That's actually how I lost my father to cancer. Um, he went in for a physical when he retired. They told him he needed, the physical to get his medical benefits because then he's got a hernia. Simple operation, so they said. Of course, now you see all the lawsuits for all the botched hernia operations. But when they opened him up, fixed the hernia, and it didn't heal. It wasn't healing. And so, of course, this is back in the 1990s. The diagnostic tool of choice was exploratory surgery. Opened him up,
Yeah.
found he had cancer, closed him up, and he died. The prevailing wisdom was when air hits cancer cells, they grow like crazy. No, the body was keeping his cancer in check until they made the first incision, and then it was still working on cancer. That's why the hernia operation wasn't healing fast enough. And when they did the exploratory, of course, now I've got a massive, you know, incision, I have to heal that. The cancer just takes over. And I mean, the whole system is absolutely backwards.
Hmm. Or is it? Maybe it's on purpose. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
I think it's by design. Let's put it that way. On purpose, is it a purposeful design? Well, if money's the goal.
Money is a goal a lot of times.
Yeah.
Look at how our gas prices keep going down now. It was only going to be for a couple days. That was going to shoot up to and with gas prices, same thing with everything. It just becomes the new norm. Okay, this will be the new norm for gas prices. People will complain about it, and a few years from now, they'll be like, "Oh, I wish it was at $4 again." You know, and so like I think the same with pets. It's like I don't know It's really, really expensive to have a pet, and it shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't. It never used to be. I mean, when I started in the industry, I was originally looking to go to vet school. And to be honest, most of the vets back when you're looking in the 60s were still pretty much country vets, handling livestock and stuff like that, just general practitioners. There was no regular office visits. There was no schedule. There was no wellness checks. There was none of that stuff. And they were true diagnosticians. They could actually look at an animal and see what was wrong with it and knew exactly what to do. And today, of course, all they're doing is pumping drugs, send it on to another specialist that's going to look at that one body part and not have any answers as to why it happened. Why did your gallbladder go bad? Why did your appendix burst? Appendicitis. It's an inflammation. What's inflaming it?
Oh, what a concept.
Yeah.
You mean you actually want to know what caused it to happen?
Well, do you think you might be able to prevent it if you knew what caused it?
And like with this whole spay and neutering thing, how come people give so much hate to other people that don't spay and neuter?
Because they've been programmed to think that you're a bad pet parent. You don't care enough about your animal to do it. That's a big part of that right there. Is that caring?
Who is spay and neutering out in the wild though?
Nothing.
Do they have like a Dr. Zayas or something that does it?
Well, yeah, I guess they have that done in the same places where they buy their vitamins and supplements and, their prefabricated meals and everything. It's like, no, nature is perfect. Not necessarily in our eyes, when a cat catches a bird and is eating it, oh my God, it's a terrible thing. But a mouse, well, we'll tolerate that because we don't like mice. Mice are bad. Rats are bad. But this is the whole thing. It's a balance. It's a perfect balance. But we've tried to add emotion to it. And, of course, that spells disaster in many cases.
I think, too, things happen the way they're supposed to happen. And when you start, like, using mad science to change that, there's a lot of problems from that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just my opinion. Just my opinion. Yeah. For you people at YT, just my opinion.
It's when you look at the problems of society today too, it's the same thing, because when you alter the hormones, and that can be done even chemically. There's chemical castrations now that they can do and that sort of thing. But once you start throwing that body out of balance, you don't know which way it's going to spin.
Well, and the body may not know how to acclimate to it in a way that would be beneficial. It'll acclimate, but, it's kind of like taking the steering wheel off a car and then going to drive it.
Yeah, at 80 miles an hour.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell everybody how they can find out more about this and other pet health and human health, truths. We'll just say truths.
That's a good way to put it.
And check out your podcast, your show, My Paleo Pet, all that good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Pet Health Cafe every single week. You can listen to it on YouTube 24/7, Spotify, a whole bunch of other places. where we talk a lot about all the different topics about health and medicines and natural remedies and prevention, and even behavioral type things on both the pet and the people side, because we do a lot of crossover on that. So, because if you're good, we have to have our pet parents healthy too, because they have to take care of them. You can also go to mypaleopet.com for our store. Um, the store right now is in transition. We're in the process of a move, and check out the social media to the new location, and we're planning a lot of new services there as well. Um, I do consultations as well for health and wellness on both people and pets. We try to get the program together that way, and I'm just all over the place. I mean, it's a good thing. Um, they can reach the store at 954-971-2500, and book an appointment, come in and see us. Let us get you healthy. All the herbs and good foods and farm to table um, selections that we have. So we got so much to offer, something completely new, and we're just going to keep expanding on that in a new store, a new horizon, a new start for a healthier 2026 and our 20th year of operation.
Wow. Blows your mind, doesn't it?
It does. I don't know where the time went.
Proves you're doing something right, though. You don't last for 20 years if you're doing things the wrong way. So everybody check out Pet Health Cafe, My Paleo Pet, and we'll see you again next week, Bill.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, stay tuned now. We're going to run some commercials so you can win some tickets to festivals. Now, listen, all you have to do is tell me which festival you want to win. Go to my socials at Pipeman Radio. On any socials, and you'll be entered to win. And then stay tuned for some powerful business strategies right here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio.
Louder Than Life, North America's loudest rock and metal festival, returns to Louisville this September with My Chemical Romance, Iron Maiden, Tool, Limp Bizkit, plus Pantera, Pierce the Veil, Gojira, Papa Roach, and more. Nearly 200 bands across 7 stages. Louder Than Life at the Kentucky Expo Center, September 17th through 20th. Passes are on sale now, starting at only $1 down at louderthanlifefestival.com. Aftershock, the West Coast's largest rock, metal, and punk festival, returns to Sacramento this October with My Chemical Romance, Tool, Limp Bizkit, Pierce the Veil, plus Suicide Boys, Queens of the Stone Age, The Offspring, A Day to Remember, Wu-Tang Clan, and more. Aftershock, October 1st through 4th. Passes are on sale now, starting at only $1 down at aftershockfestival.com.
Hey, you're listening to The Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio with our Positively Pipeman segment. And this is where we talk about some powerful business strategies from Michael Barbarita, our resident expert. And this week, we're going to talk about preparing for exit. That is a very important subject for anybody that's a business owner, because you should always have an exit strategy. And Michael, why don't you tell them why and how to do it?
That's right. Well, because someday you will be separated from your business. The question is, will it be a great day? And so a lot of baby boomers right now, which is a large part of the population, are selling their business. So from a demographic standpoint, a lot of people are looking for the exit, and the exit isn't something. It's not like selling a house where you just put a for sale sign on it, or selling some type of asset that you have. It's totally different. It involves, and in my description, I talk about how you need to prepare at least 2 years. It's probably closer to 3 would probably be the optimum amount of time if you're thinking about selling. It's not like you can't think about selling on January 1st, 2026 and try to sell the business at the best price. You can, but at the best price and an opportunity in 2020 and try to sell it in 2026. It's just not the way to go about doing it.
Right.
Right. So some of the things that you have to do is, first of all, you have to keep the company focused on growth, because you do want to, if you're going to be selling in the next couple of years, you do want to maximize your profit, because that's why people buy a business. They buy a business for two things. Number one, so the business they'll pay more money for a business that is a business and not a job. Very important designation there that I'll get to in a moment. But and they will pay. They want to pay for opportunity. They don't want to buy a stagnant business. They want to buy a growing business. So you have to constantly keep the eye on growth. Also, you have to reduce the reliance on you. The more you reduce the reliance on you, the more valuable the business is. Why? Because people don't want to buy jobs; they want to buy businesses. And so, if the buyer foresees that they have to do a lot of work, that they have to work 80 hours a week like you do, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because they're buying a job. That doesn't work. So some people would do that, but you get a low nickel, you get a low price when that happens. It's just that the EBITDA multiple goes down.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make sure your accounting records are in shape, because if a buyer goes in there and your accounting records are a mess, they're just going to walk away, and they're not even going to give you remotely give you an opportunity to make an offer.
Why would they?
Right. Right. It's got to be in line. The other thing is if you're a seller, you have to understand your tax ramifications of the sale, because that one can blow you right out of the water depending upon the structure. One of the worst structures to sell is a C corporation, because there's a double taxation associated with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Once to the company, they get taxed, and then you want to take the money out of the company and put it in your pocket, it gets taxed again. So you have to really convert that C corporation to a sub S, and that can cost you some money for sure, not just in preparation, but also more importantly there's this thing called a built-in gains tax, which is a nightmare. But it's better to convert and pay that built-in gains tax than not convert and pay the double tax when you sell. So if you're a C corporation, get out of it. But in the meantime, understand the tax ramifications. You've got to understand all your estate planning ramifications. Okay, you want to make sure that if there is a sale, and if you're not around, you want to make sure it goes into the right hands. Or if there is a sale and you are around, you're now going to be hopefully dealing with a pile of money that you have to properly estate plan for. So that's another important consideration. Strategic buyers are always willing to pay more, even though they don't let on that they will. Okay, so a strategic buyer is somebody who is in the same business or serves similar customers than you do. They already have the overhead base, and all they're doing is piling your sales onto their overhead base. So a lot of that profit falls to the bottom line. They're willing to pay more. They won't let on that they are, but they are. So looking for strategic buyers is a way to maximize the purchase price. You should have a valuation done on the company. Not that, and by the way, most valuations that are done are definitely overstate the price, in my opinion, but it's good to have because it's an overstated price, and it's good to get an overstated price. So usually a valuation is something that you should do during that 2 to 3 year period. You got to find a good business attorney. Without a good business attorney, somebody who understands how to negotiate, somebody who understands business and law, because no matter what the case is, there's usually a couple of crisis points in like every deal, and you need a lawyer who understands the business ramifications so they can negotiate on your behalf. Because you don't want to sit there and negotiate all the, certainly the major terms are negotiated, but all the Mickey Mouse terms that can actually ruin a deal, those are best served between the attorneys. And if your attorney understands the business concepts, they're going to have a leg up on the other attorney during that type of negotiation. So that's critical as well. You got to understand, you got to decide what your role is going to be. Some sellers stay with the company in this capacity that they were in when they were the owner. So that's the other component. What role do you want to play? Some are just consultants to the business, and they get paid for that, by the way. Don't blow that one. If you're a consultant to the business, you should get paid for that. And by the way, that's earned income versus capital gain on the business, and that might be taxed at a lower rate. So you might be able to allocate purchase price toward a consulting agreement, which is something that you might not do any work on, but you might answer questions from time to time, and you're probably willing to do that at a price, and you should be. But you can allocate purchase price to that. You can also allocate purchase price if you own the building. You can allocate some purchase price to increase rent. That helps because the building will help. The depreciation on the building will help offset some of that extra income. So it's just another way to manage it. When I sold my businesses too, I used to allocate price toward telephone numbers and different types of intangible assets. Now these, at the time when I did it, it was a 5-year write-off. Now it's 15, so it's not as much of an advantage. But the more assets that you could allocate purchase price to, usually the better you are tax-wise. But you should consult your tax attorney or your tax person on that. So there's just a bunch of things, and my list is even longer. But there's just a lot of things that you need to do to prepare for a sale. It's not one of these things where you just put a sign out or, just ask a couple people if they want to buy. It just doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
Right. And if you want to use a broker, there's a lot of reputable brokers out there, but you've got to be careful because there's brokers who really don't understand business. And because there's no license to be a business broker per se. There really isn't.
And they love to spam you.
That's right. They do. Yeah, that's another thing. But those are the main points in terms of if you're going to be selling a business, you got to prepare for it. And like I said, there's a lot more points you have to think about as well. But those are the critical ones that I think if you understand those types of things and plan ahead for those types of things, you're going to be in good shape.
Very cool. And yeah, it is very important. I think it's very important that somebody consult with an expert on something like this so that they don't make any mistakes. And that's where I think they need to reach out to you, Michael, and Next Step CFO. How can they reach out to you and get more information on how to do a proper exit strategy or anything else having to do with any powerful business strategies?
Well, they could go to nextstepcfo.net. They could go to the contact page and ask any question they'd like, but they also could take advantage of our AI business assessment diagnostic, which is it's an AI diagnostic. It takes less than 10 minutes, and it'll find hidden revenue in your business. And it'll identify 3 key strategies as it relates to your business through the AI questions that are asked. And it'll also explain how to go about implementing those strategies, and it's free. And the beautiful thing about the AI assessment, everybody says, "Oh, AI." Well, the beautiful thing about it is there's no no advisor with you or anything like that. And there's no judgment. You could be right, honest engine with it, and the results will reflect your honest answers, and you'll find hidden revenue in your business. So it's a great opportunity. It's the orange button on the right. It says find hidden revenue in less than 10 minutes, and that's the diagnostic.
Nice. Well, thanks once again for your words of wisdom, Michael, and we'll look forward to talking with you next week about cash management.
Excellent.
So,
thank you.
That's an important one, too.
There you go.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.